is week 1. Season starts in just a few days. Starts in approximately 12 days. The thing is still going. That's what it is. It is week 1, and this is a big starting week. I could do my predictions for this week, and also everyone else's predictions for this. This is going to be an interesting week just to start off going into this basic positions, because this is going to be a tough week for some of these games. The official NBL season starts on the 13th, so we are only a few days away from it. From the time I put this up, I'll go ahead and just work out here. Week 1 is going to be an interesting week. To start off, we got the Angels and the Hawks. It's going to be an interesting and very tough week for some of these teams. Angels and Hawks is not going to be a very difficult game, but it's pretty close in combination between these two teams. I have going with the Angels are predicted to win. I have the Angels over Hawks, although I do think it's going to be a very close game going into this next season. And this is a tough one. There's no particular home games. This one will happen at NBL Stadium, one of the stadiums that was there last year. And honestly, this is going to be a tough week for them. That's Angels and the Hawks. I think the Hawks are going to do really well this year. It's just going to come down to they are starting off in a pretty difficult week. The Hawks don't really start off very hot. Don't start off hot. So I'm going to say the Angels win this week. Everyone else, Lily, John, Runner, Dog, and Puppy, who are other players that also do this, are going with the Hawks this week. So it's going to be, I'm the only one picking the Angels. I might be the only one who gets it right, or I might be the only one who gets it wrong. The Dogs and Bears starts at NBL Stadium as well at a later time on Saturday as well. And it's going to be the Bears are favored by 1. I feel like this is the one week that I don't know what will happen, because the Dogs could end up being really good. My personal prediction for the Dogs is that they finish off at 13-3, winning their division. But it comes down to a lot of things going into this. I think the Dogs are going to do really well this season. They have a easier team this week, and honestly, I don't know that there's much of a chance that the Bears actually win. They have a better prediction, but I'm going to have the Dogs winning this week, and most everyone went with the Dogs. Runner went with the Bears this week, but honestly, this game could go either way, and this will also be the week that decides these teams actually good, or these teams just start off terribly. We got the Legends and the Dogs. The Dragons favored by 2. The Legends generally do start off pretty well, but we do have a bit of a problem with the Legends. And they are just not showing up as well for it. In my opinion, I don't think the Legends are actually going to do very well. I have the Legends finishing off with a 7-9 record, 4th in their division, and that's just not going to work out for this one. I don't think the Legends are going to do too well. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs off of this one. I have them at 7-9, and I think this week will be a week that they will lose against the Dragons. Everyone picked the Dragons this week. I think the Dragons are going to be definitely a team that will win this week. Maybe later in the season when they get more developed, there might be a better chance for the Legends to win. But right now, it just doesn't look like that. It's going to be weird. We've got the Otters and the Dragons. Otters and Dragons. Oh, wait. Nope. Otters and Chargers. I'm looking at the wrong week. I'm looking at the right week, but I'm looking at the wrong thing. It's the Otters and the Chargers. And this is a tough one. Both these teams are very strong and very good predictions going offense. I do have the Otters winning their division with a 13-3 record, and that reverses the Chargers, who are not in the same division as them. Chargers, I don't think are going to do too well in their games. They're going to fuck up them at 4-12. And for this week, I'm going to have to say in favor. It's definitely favored to the Otters, even though the Chargers are favored officially by 1. They have the same percentage overall. So it comes down to a lot of things in this. I want to say the Chargers do have a good chance of winning this game. I think it's going to be a very good game. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I picked the Otters, and it's been split pretty even. Lily picked the Chargers, and Puppy picked the Chargers, but everyone else picked for the Otters in this week. Okay, it's going to be the Bulldogs and the Foxes. Tough. Really tough. But I think it's going to be very close for that context. For the Bulldogs are just not quite there yet. Maybe they'll get a few more positions going into this. Bulldogs, I do have the Bulldogs finishing with a I actually have the Bulldogs winning their division, facing off very close with the Falcons at 11-5. But this is going to be a tough week for even the Foxes. I had to pick the Foxes here, but I do think it's going to be a very, very close game when it comes to this. I do have the Foxes, who are not in the same division, winning this game, but it's going to be very, very close. The Foxes had finishing up at 12-5. We get ourselves the Panthers and Pirates. If this were any other week, I could give the Pirates a chance to win this game. But it comes down to a lot of things. And I just don't see the Pirates being able to win week 1. Panthers have never lost week 1. And I don't think this is going to be the day that will happen. So I picked the Panthers. It's been pretty split, but Lily picked the Pirates. Everyone else picked the Panthers off this one. I think this is going to be a very good game, but considering the Pirates are probably not going to be totally in there, Panthers are generally do very well week 1. I do have the Panthers going at 12-4, winning, getting second place in this division, so they will be probably the stiff seed at that point. And the Pirates, I do not have them doing well at all. 6-10. I don't think this is a week that the Pirates are going to be able to win. We got the Lightning Huskies. Whew. Well, Huskies have been hot last year. Last year the Huskies went 16-0. going all the way to the, what do we call this? It is the Ball Bowl. We would call the Ball Bowl. And I will say this. Huskies are going to stay hot. They're going to win. The Lightning is favored here. 3-0. But it's not going to, I don't think it's going to last enough for them to win this week. Maybe later in the season. But Huskies, I think Huskies are going to win this game. I have the Huskies winning their division at 14-2 versus the team they're facing off this week, the Lightning. I do not have the Lightning doing well, going 2-14. I don't think the Lightning are going to make it. Lightning were favoring this game, but I just don't think it is going to make that's going to make much of a difference. Now, I'm gonna go with the Lightning losing this game, and everyone picked the Huskies this week. All right, we got the Packers and the Colts. Oh boy, Packers and Colts. This is a tough one. The Packers were able to make it to the playoffs last year, and they're pretty close to making it this year, I'd say. It's heavily favored. Well, it's not heavily favored, but it's favored the Colts win this game. But I don't think they're going to win this game. I think it's going to be the Packers that will surprise us out and win this game. And I do have it with the Packers. Unfortunately, I don't have the Packers making the playoffs. I have them at 8-8. They're going to miss the playoffs just by a little bit. Seed 8, which is the lowest seed, would be. Problem is, everyone's going to be really good in the NBL. Unfortunately, the Packers will not make it into this year. Versus the team they're facing off against, the Colts. I have the Colts finishing off at 0-16. I don't think they're winning the game. They're favored in this game. I don't think that means anything in this one here. All right, going on. We got the Browns and the Ravens. This is going to be a tough week. The Browns have gotten a lot of extra players, a lot of people going into this week, going into it, period. I think it's a tough one because the Browns and Ravens are in a position that's really, really close. And I will say this. I don't know how to say with this game. I will say I picked the Ravens in this game, but I will not be surprised at all if the Browns end up winning this game. The Ravens are only favored by 1. It's so close. It's this close to everyone there. So I'm going to say that either one of these teams can win. The Browns have gotten a lot of new players, which might hurt them overall. It's tough. I'm looking at the Browns roster. So you're gonna find them. The Browns. Yeah, you can see this. Every one of those players that's highlighting right now is a new player. These are all rookies. They are a very new team. I don't know what to say. I think honestly, the Browns, once they get more established later in the season, they'll probably get a win or two. I think the Ravens are going to win this week. Going into the Kings and Knights, I don't think this is going to be a fun game. Kings are favored by 5. Yeah, I don't think the Kings have any chance of winning this game. Knights are just too good in this case. I pick the Knights to win this game. Here, I could see the Kings maybe putting up a good fight up in the early part of the game, so like up to the halftime. But I just don't think they're going to win this game. Lily thinks that they're that the Kings are going to win, but I'm going to pick the Knights to win this game. And honestly, I feel like that is probably the lock that I can say is I'm going to think the Knights easily win this game. Probably won't even be this close at all. 8th and the Warriors. I said it right this time. It is a close game. So last season, the 8th and I don't know what happened last year when they finished up. When they finished last year. But this is tough because I do have the 8th and making the playoffs. I think the 8th and they're going to be a really good team. This is going to be a tough week just to start off. I had the 8th and going 11-5, but I do have the Warriors which is down here at 5-11. I think the Warriors just have a hard schedule regularly. I picked the Warriors this week, but I could easily see the way it's working here. I think the 8th and do have a good chance of winning this game. I'm going with the Warriors, but everyone else picked the 8th and. So, I'm not surprised. Indians and the Cardinals. Indians went 16-0 last season. I don't even know who they beat, but what team that they beat a lot of Steelers. They got a tough one. They got a tough season this year. But looking at the 8th, looking at the schedule, which I did this before, I do have the Indians not in the best position, but I do have them at winning their division. 13-3 is gonna be close, but this week is just not a fair week for the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are gonna finish last in their division, which is NBL North, at 6-10. I think the 8th, even though it says they're only favored by 1. I do not think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be a very wide push game. I think the Indians are absolutely going to demolish it this week. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be that good of a team. We got the Dolphins and the Lions. Dolphins are favored by 3. It's a tough one. I picked the Lions here. I think the Dolphins are just going to not go out well off this one. Looking at the Dolphins total overall rating, I think they just don't have everything they need going into this. They've got some good players, and then once they get into the actual portion of this, they might get a win or quite a few wins. But I think the Lions are going to be slightly better, even though they don't have as great of a team. Once they get into together, I'm going to say that it will be a variance. I'm going to go with the Lions here, but I do think even though the Dolphins are favored, it's going to be very close. As for the Dolphins, I have the Dolphins finishing I had the Dolphins finishing 3rd in their division, 6-10. I think this week is probably just a sad week for them. I go to the Lions win this week. As for the Lions, I do have the Lions can't find any more teams. I have the Lions finishing last, unfortunately, in their division overall. I think this week is just going to be a very tough week. At 5-11, that's because they have one of the tougher schedules. And I just want to say right now. We got ourselves the Texans and the Bobcats. The Techs are it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough for the Techs and Bobcats winning this one. Techs are favored by quite a bit, and I think honestly that's pretty fair for this one. They've got the Bobcats, and Bobcats are not the best team out there. I have the Techs winning this game, and everyone's picked the Techs going into this. But we do want to point out the Techs are. I'm thinking the Techs are going to make the playoffs. 13-3. It's going to be very tough. I'm going to go with the Techs going into the playoffs. They're not winning the division, but they're going to make it to the playoffs. As for the Bobcats, I have them in the same division. This is a divisional week for them. It's 5-12 for them. I don't think they're going to do too well. Some of their wins are going to be against the Colts, and that's probably it. We got the Falcons and Giants. It's a pretty close game. Everyone picked the Giants. And honestly, I picked Giants as well because this is actually a very tough week for any of these teams. And I can't say that the Giants are going to do terribly. And I think honestly the Giants are going to make it back into the playoffs. I have the Giants winning their division. 14-2, which is a lot. The two losses are going to probably be wins, honestly. It's very close in it. They face off again when they talk about the other teams. They've got the Falcons, and honestly, I don't even know what to say about the Falcons. They're kind of a team that could do really well, and honestly, it's going to be a fight between the Bulldogs and the Falcons for winning the division, but I do think the Falcons are making the playoffs. I had the Falcons making the playoffs at this given time. Saints and Tigers. Tigers are favored by 1. Everyone picked Tigers. Honestly, this could go either way. This is one of those games that could be really close, and it's one of those games that could be really far apart. Tigers, I have it 7-9, not doing too well. And the other team, let's see here. We got the Saints. Saints, I do have the 7-9 as well. Both these teams doing pretty. I think this is going to be a pretty big game, just going battling it up, left and right, just going all of this. I'm going to say the Saints and both of them either one could win. I picked the Tigers, and everyone else did well. Jets and the Supermen. That is a divisional game, I believe. Jets and Supermen. I picked the Supermen. I think the Supermen are going to do really well this year. No one else thought that, though. Everyone else picked the Jets to win this week. And honestly, I could see them winning this week. It's a 1-point favorites. The Supermen have 1-point favorites over the Jets. So this could easily go either direction. As for the way this works out, I don't know where they put this way. I have the Jets finishing at 3-13. So that's not exactly the best option. Whereas I don't think they're going to do well enough to make it even close to it. If the Jets win, that might change what I have to think about everyone for these teams. As for the other team, though, the Supermen, I have them missing the playoffs by 1 game. They put them at 11-5 as well. They'll be like the 9th seed basically in the divisions. They'll be really close to it. They'll just miss it, and there's only 8 seeds, so unfortunately they can't make it into the playoffs. We got UNC and the Lynx. This is a tough week for both these teams. Both these teams that are really advanced. The Lynx, however, are heavily favored with 6 points. I picked the Lynx. Everyone else picked UNC except for Puppy, who picked the Lynx as well. This is a tough one for me. I have UNC winning their division, his division, which is the ABL South, 15-1. I don't even know what I picked that one because I didn't put these things together, but I do have them going 15-1. The UNC, which I think honestly this week could be the week they do it. As for the other side, I have the Lynx. Unfortunately, Lynx are making the playoffs with a 12-4 record, but they're not going to win the division. Ours will win their division off of that. Come back to the game of the week. Got the Beagles and the Werewolves. I have the Bengals missing the playoffs, 10-6 record. Pretty good game for it. And I have the Werewolves at 11-5, making the playoffs with a hit. I picked the Werewolves here, but they are it's going to be very tough because one thing to note is they've lost a lot of players. If you look at the Werewolves, the Werewolves did lose quite a few players. They lost their three of their best players going into this last season. I honestly think they're a younger team when it comes to this. I think it's going to be tough for the Werewolves in this game specifically until they get established. I will say I think it's going to be a very good game. I picked the Werewolves, but I do think it's going to be a very tough game. I do think the Beagles have a good chance of winning this game. Everyone else picked the Beagles. Now we get to the game of the week. And this week could be a pretty huge week. It is the Leland Cats and Stars. They are not playing on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. They are playing at 2 o'clock on Thursday, which is going to be the 13th. Make sure I have that right. Yes, the 13th Thursday. This is the first team ever that happened on Thursday. It's the 13th off of that. It's a tough one. Both these games are going to be really, really tough. However, I think the Stars are going to do a whole lot better this year. I do have the Stars in a position not quite making the playoffs, I don't think. No, unfortunately, I do have the Stars not even missing the playoffs, but they're going to do much better. They were at 0-16 last year. They are at 8-8. This year's what I heard them predicted as. As for the Leland Cats, I have the winning division, 3rd seed, 13-3. It's a tough one. And honestly, these are going to be very interesting positions off of these winners. And we don't obviously have any ranks or we don't have any ranked offense or ranked defense. That will be put into week 2. And that is almost all that we can get to. I think I'm going to go and talk real quickly about the teams that I think are going to struggle throughout the season. The 3 teams I think they're going to struggle. And I hate to do this because these teams could end up turning around. I think the Ravens are going to struggle. I had them 4-12. Not going to do too well. I think the Colts are going to struggle. And finally, I do think that it's not going to be fun, but I think the Chargers are going to struggle. All 3 of those teams are going to struggle into this season, and these are the teams I think are going to have a hard time going into this year. But, again, this is week 1. This is where you get everything set up and put out. The only difference is that overtime is different. That's the only real difference. Overtime games are a little different because of the context of how overtime games have to work. Mostly because of the playoffs. Mostly because of the playoffs, it just took way too long. Overtime rules, pretty simple. We're going to get into it. In a game, if you go to overtime, there's 3 phases. The actual game, so the 4 quarters, which is 12 minutes each of the quarters. So we've got, give or take, 48 minutes. Then you've got penalty shots. This will only occur in the case where the team that is losing is got more penalty shots than the team that is winning. So if I almost want to go pick on the Stars. If the Stars have 6 penalty shots because the Leon Cats committed 6 fouls after the 5 initial first fouls, then they can take their minutes if they're losing. If they're not losing, it doesn't matter. The game ends in that position. So if Leland Cats, if it is 100-103 with the Leland Cats winning, let's make it easier. Let's just say that we are playing this game here. It is 103-100, and they have PS6, and they have no penalty shots. I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna make it easier. Just make it. These are the penalty shots. There are 6 penalty shots. Because here, the way it works is in the penalty points are that the first 5 penalties are negated, with the exception of personal fouls. But we won't really go into that too much. But we'll say this is the way it works. Well, the Stars are going to have 6 shots, and they will have an established player that's not injured play all of those shots. That's what's going to has to happen. What has to happen if the game ends up in a tie to what's after all penalty shots are done. If it's tied, they move to overtime. Overtime period. Each team will get 5 possessions, which means you can get up, if I'm correct, to 3 points for each one of them. So you could, in theory, finish up with 15 more points. After that, in a playoff game, this won't matter if it's, let's say we add our 118 points to 120 points for some reason, then the Stars win that game. But if it's tied at that point, it's called a tie. It is a draw. Anyone who has picked one of the teams in a match will get a point off of that. I'm going to go ahead and just delete that because it doesn't matter. That is the way the rules work off of that. And there's no Pacific. Now, these are home and away games. The only real difference in the home and away games is how it is started. If you're home, you get the ball to start off the game. Whether or not, no matter what happens. Then whoever has the same thing, it goes back and forth. At halftime, the away team will get the ball, and so on. And possession goes back and forth through it. In a playoff game, it'll be a little different. If we're tied in a playoff game, which we are way far away from the playoffs, then the way it will work is you go for your shots. It's tied to 103. Then it becomes, and that's after penalty shots have done. There were no penalty shots. There were no, or all penalty shots were taken, and it was a tie game. Then it goes to what's the 5 periods, and if those 5 periods occur where the same score is done, then it goes to what is called sudden death. That's the new rule going into this. If whoever scores first wins. That's really what it is. That is the exact thing to note. Whoever scores first wins the game in the case that game goes into overtime. In that regard, this is the end of week. This is the start of week 1. I will see you guys for week 2, where I'll predict those and see how badly I did in my picks. See you guys in the next video. Welcome, and I'll see you guys in the next week, week 2, where I'll take a look at each of the week 2 stats, and we'll see how well everyone did.